Hey everyone, this is Karen again. I've got my second one, not because it's Manic Monday, but because this particular live stream, is one that I wanted to do yesterday, and it's called The Games People Play. They're not just games that people play, but they're games that all of us play. If you listen to my live stream about your pituitary gland, which is posted on my Naturally with Karen YouTube page, you'll find out that your pituitary gland actually accumulates mercury. Many, many times when we were unaware of this, we were being subjected to a gross amount of programming. You know that programming affectionately by names that you call monopoly. Now don't get a knee-jerk offense on me here. Just listen to me through before you feel any certain way. Bless up, Robert. Good to see you. Monopoly is the nation's third favorite game. It was a family standard, just like the game that you see playing before your eyes as I'm live streaming with you, sitting here in downtown Duluth. Checkers, Chutes and Ladders. You certainly remember the game of Operation that taught you to have a lot of fun with taking out defunct body parts. But there was also a game called Risk, a game called Battleship, and then there were also other games, right? And there's another one here I wanted to put, Scrabble. I couldn't read my writing because I put this together yesterday, so it's not super fresh in my mind. Now, all of these games have led you into the other aspects of system games, which are alcohol. You know them as a glass of wine at night, so you can unwind. We'll go more into the spring and the offspring and the word sound, because I'm realizing that no matter what is going on, it's incredibly important to bring the medicine while I can. None of us knows how long we're going to be around. We're given a relatively short life span. And so this has all been inside of my head for the majority of the last 30-some years. I infuse it into my medicine. We are influenced because we are internally living waters. Alcohol, medications which borrow the word medicine within the root. Bless up, Jason, good to see you. Drugs that are found on the street, and food chemicals. Now, if we sort of parallel that with media, social media, images that are presented before your eyes, I'm going to show you through building on my Naturally with Karen YouTube channel, and here through my live streams that I'm uploading, downloading, and then uploading to YouTube, why entertainers and icons and some of the messages that have been massaged into your minds have created dominant programs. The kind of dominant programs that you see when you drive down Highway 35 or any highway in the United States. You see programs that talk about killing it. Kill it with your, get out there and just kill it, right? We use kill it, murder it, battle it, conquer it, destroy it, annihilate it, fight it when we talk about our own bodies and disease, when we talk about overcoming addiction, when we speak about all of the variety of things that we do with one another in terms of competitive sports. We even teach our young children to go out there and kill it on the field. Go out there and get them, beat them, do a good job. I saw this in hockey. I saw this in wrestling. I saw this in basketball. I saw this in any number. Football, certainly my son was in football in high school. Okay? So out of these games, Monopoly is number 3 in the nation. So in the United States, especially the continental United States, most people have been around Monopoly for a very long time. But did you know what it's really doing? Aside from it being a great deal of fun, it also has a lot to do with you bankrupting everybody else around you by you having more real estate specifically, but more property. And I think you might be interested to know that there's just a certain amount of money that actually comes in a Monopoly board game in what's called the bank. So let's get started. Most of the board games have 8x8 squares, or they have checkered game piece counter boards. They have tokens, just like in Monopoly. Your game piece could have been a thimble, it could have been a variety of different things, right? And you would pick your particular game piece. Most of what you see are squares on the board Even when you look at Monopoly and you look at the sections that are divided for the different real estates, and you're going to be interested to find out that there's 3 properties that are the most used or the most visited properties, and why. Okay? So these games are what you learn to use based on strategy, looking at your fellow man, your brother and sister, as an opponent. And I frequently hear this kind of a word sound with women in my age group that are over 55 that say, "Hey lady, what you doing? How are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm not a doing, but I'm doing well. Thank you for asking me. I am well, moreover," right? Okay. So what I learned for a great deal from African people in the early 80s was to start addressing each other, or relating, moreover, than addressing like an envelope, relating with each other as brother and sister, mama, auntie. But lady? Hey man, what you doing? Hey man, what's up? Okay, so you get the idea. Don't get the point, but you get the idea, okay? So these games are based on strategy. I'm kind of looking at my notes here, and they're also sometimes based on chance. The goal is typically to always be able to get, your player, you're a player, so it's a game, right? To try to achieve the goal before your opponent. So it's constantly seeing yourself as necessarily needing to be the winner, okay? You develop a literal capacity when you play board games. You have a lot of fun. Chess is a great deal of fun, but do we really base our becoming intelligent on singularly becoming smart? Meaning that we become clever in sometimes even the most dubious or devious of ways by learning how to outmaneuver our opponents instead of learning how to connect with the song I'm going to post after this live stream, Connected. That's an old song that's also going to be the basis for another book that I'm writing. So if you have a game of checkers, for example, you have an 8x8 checkered board that's in what? Dark and light colors. Stop and think about that for a moment, okay? The game of checkers is typically to kill your opponent by jumping over them. Now, I had to think about this many years ago, and in relation to seeing dogs out playing with each other that had never seen each other before, and knowing how animals are, knowing that you are an animal, I am an animal. Animals typically have been so resource diminished. What does that mean? That means that instead of us going over and having a plentiful supply of clean, mineral-rich water, a plentiful supply of fresh fruit hanging from the trees, coconuts, or seasonally and geographically available to us, we don't. We have to have money, like I just did, to go into the grocery store. I went into Whole Foods, took my reusable mug that you see me, posing with here all the time. I guess posing would be the word. And it cost me $1.50 to get a nice big cup, with some honey and some non-dairy creamer of yerba mate. So I have to go somewhere and actually pay tokens that are part of game mentality, okay? Now, the game of checkers that most of us played, because we're learning system simulation game mentality all the time. That's why our children, we frequently refer to them as kids, which is a baby goat. And you'll frequently see me talk about the passage in the Bible about they'll separate the sheep from the goats. I want you to think more about that passage after you listen to this entire live stream. I shy away from referring to youth, babies, toddlers, teenagers, juveniles, whatever we want to call them, in the medical, the legal, the educational. These are all aspects of the game. They're all system. You're constantly being inundated with system language, system behavior, and that system necessarily needs you to compete and be dominant at all times, or to absolutely submit, because you have no chance of being dominant based on your age, based on your social strata, based on your zip code, based on your bank account, based on your intellect. And just like you saw me post down below on my page, I've been speaking about what's happened to Flint, Michigan in particular, but many places in the world. In Africa, it's Cretinism. Cretinism comes from a lack of iodine because of areas of Africa being so inland, just like it is in the inland Midwest. And it's absolutely freaking preventable in the same way that malaria is, but we do nothing about it. Okay? It's time to be candidly honest. It's time to show your cards, right? Show your cards, so to speak, so that people can shift outside of a linear, binary, systematic programming, otherwise known as a sim or the matrix. The idea of checkers, which most of us played as young children, is to capture or to block. You remember, there's red and black checkers, and you could kind of jump over spaces because in the game of checkers, you move in a diagonal motion, right? Okay. Chess is essentially the game of chess, right? Which I think now, if I wrote that down, chess is the #1 game in the nation. I was doing a little bit of research before I'd planned to do this live stream yesterday, so I'm doing 2 today. Chess is a simulation between 2 players as if they were nations. I didn't make this up. I'm aware of it. I'm not a chess player. I've played checkers and Monopoly and many games, and I've wished, and I still long to learn how to play the game of chess because it looks like a lot of fun. I had my son playing it when he was really young, and he got really good at it as well. But there are 2 opposing nations in the game of chess that basically wage a war until they're down to a lone king. Now, since we live in what I believe, and I think you would agree with me, is a dominant patriarchy, specifically a very top-heavy dominant patriarchy, which is basically entirely dominated by the white male, by business, by the systematic programming of shaving of the head, cutting the hair real short, putting the necktie all the way up so you're pretty choked up and deep into system language, and by recognizing only those who are credentialed over those who are actually competent, by recognizing those who have medicalese and legalese, dictum and speech, and not those who have true competence and intelligence. You see, there's a far cry difference between being smart than there is being multiple intelligent. A multiple intelligent person is able to sense someone anywhere on the planet, anywhere in the field. Moreover, they're able to grow food. They wouldn't say, I don't have a green thumb, I kill every plant that comes around. That's a person who's disconnected. A person that's, hey lady, what's going on? And they're really in rote language. They're really so stiff inside of themselves, in person. I'm not talking about through the inbox or texting. I'm not here to offend anyone. I'm here to produce growth. Because with growth comes realistic change. With realistic change comes the ability for our youth, our youngers, to start getting themselves outside of living in a matrix that's only going to farm them on a deeper and deeper level. As I was saying today about the drugs, and I'll talk about that in just a moment because that's pretty important too. I like to take the word monopoly and break it into just 2 syllables, mono and poly. Mono and poly, right? And they mean 2 different things. So mono is typically one, right, or the self. And then poly is, can you, for yourself, can you hog all of the resources? Can you hoard them all? And well, I mean, isn't that pretty true to form, that everywhere you go, you know, you're acutely aware of the fact that there are select families that have so much more than other families do by a pretty wide margin. On the game of Monopoly, there's 3 places that you can land most often. They are go, where you get paid to go. Go, 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 go. And today it's like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm busy, 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 busy. Oh, yes, I'm busy. To which I typically say, I'm so sorry to hear that. I would really rather prefer to hear that you have things going on, but that you're also taking some time for yourself. Because even when my life is busy, 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 I also take time to myself, okay? Which means I'm sitting in the car doing a live stream, go out for a walk. I just went to Whole Foods and got a cup of tea. We got to defrag a little bit, okay? All right, so it was in World War II Bless up to Steve. It was in World War II that Monopoly actually had a very special board game that was one where you could help free Nazi prisoners. I mean, gosh, how crazy is that, right? But that actually happened. I told you that I would tell you the amount of money held in the bank on the Monopoly game, and that's $15,140, which equals the number 11, which equals the number 2. So you should know your numbers when you come in. I know your number or your numbers, okay? If you look at the game Scrabble, the person who's essentially the winner is the person who's able to make the most words, right? We are very valued based on sophistry, our command of English in particular, language, written and spoken, and how we articulate it, right? Gives us a sense of ascribed power, or it doesn't. So in the game Scrabble, the person with the most words ends up being the winner. So you see each one of these games, whether you're dominating by hoarding and with real estate and taxation and driving other people into bankrupt, that's domination with Monopoly. Whether you're dominating through diagonal means and stacking and reducing in checkers, that's another form of domination. If you're using chutes and ladders, you're teaching young children to do good deeds, or they go down the chute and they've got to go back up the ladders, right? So on their face, these are fun and they look like great games and they're time passers and they're family, historical board games that we've been using long before video games and computer games. But did you really ever think how much they actually comport with pulling you deeper into the simulation? That's what I'm hoping that you're going to get from this, okay? Not conspiracy theory, but that they evolve with time, and they're teaching you to be greedy, violent, and use warlike language. They're teaching you to dominate your brothers and sisters, the ones that you don't always openly and honestly call, hey brother, hey sister, what's good? Are you well is different than how are you doing? How are you doing? Hey lady, how are you doing? Okay? So battleship, does that even need an explanation? The battleship has everything to do with learning how to conquer using technology and warships, right? Warships. Think about that again too, okay? So that's domination by warfare. There goes my my notes there, okay? When I drive down the highway, even last night, kill them with it. We go into the hospitals, which I've been in, helping a loved one. We really want to kill the cancer. We want to kill this problem. We want to conquer and battle it and get over it and destroy it. This is what we want to do, right? Bless up, Joanna. I want to invite you to watch this from the beginning if you're so inclined. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. I'm definitely not egotistical here. I'm down to earth. I got a lot going on in my life right now too. I'm helping someone overcome an extreme case of opioid addiction. And I'll tell you what, it's battling a demon. I was in the vision time again this rise between 6 and 7:30 a.m. And I confronted another entity. I saw him very clearly. I saw the difference in the iris and looked directly, and I was warned, do not look at him, do not make eye contact. And that's the difference between an elder is we want to protect you youngers from some things that you don't really know or realize or have experienced or had the maturity within the games. Because the games aren't just these board games I've showed you that lure you in to game and domination thinking. It's the domestication that's happening to you. It's having you believe that everything necessarily is just to be treated, right? So gaming is competing most of the time. It's trickery. It's, obtaining and getting more and being better and being the winner. And how many times can I go around go, which is really very eerily close to getting through every Friday or your bi-weekly or your monthly paycheck, right? You got to keep going around the board and expending energy, but who's really getting that energy that you're expending? That's what I'm curious about, right? I mean, I believe I know. I believe it's changed how I think about what most people call reincarnation, about how most people think about the medical industry, the dental, the veterinary, all the way around. I don't despise them. I don't totally distrust them or dislike them. But it's eye-opening, okay? So bless up, see y'all. This particular live stream was to introduce that these games came before what? Call of Duty. What's the other one? What's the Grand Theft Auto? What are we teaching our youth? What are we putting them on a machine that is able to read their retina here, now, or in the future, depending on what model you have of a box sitting in your person's child or young adult or older adult is playing these boxes. The same way you're playing the television. The worst thing you can do if you're my age is to get up and turn on the news and get your newspaper, have your toast, and drink your coffee with your dairy creamer in it. If you're not actively getting the mercury out of your pituitary gland, like I talked about in the live stream on pituitary at my Naturally with Karen page, you're going to be in for trouble. Because neurologically, you can't take this kind of a patterning from the board game shift in the sim all the way to the games that are being played on the computers. I'm looking because someone was veering really close to my car where I'm sitting out here being quiet. So if you go back and you watch this live stream and you find that you have some questions or you have some comments, I'm open. Just put them down below. Go over to my YouTube channel at Naturally with Karen and subscribe, because I have medicine, which is what? It's guidance. It's wanting to build a council of elder. It's wanting to break it down that we have other ways to heal our people, reforest and heal our planet, get councils of elders together instead of relying on one man in the White House, whether he's white or black or whatever. One man can't do it with a centralized form of government. They need help. Just like my clients cannot go to the doctor and possibly hope to cure themselves from the ever-increasing amount of TPA, thyroid peroxidase antibodies tested. Oh, you've got an autoimmune. Well, no, I'm going to let you know you've got what the doctors would call an autoimmune, quote, disorder. There's game language again, machine language. Because I'm going to see it as it's happening with me right now, getting puffiness around my eyes, edemic, water retention. Okay? By the choices that you're making, because you can't think on any really good, well level. So I'm going to say so long for now. I hope you've enjoyed this. People are playing games for many, many generations now that entail hoarding, resource scarcity, domination, domestication, right? Getting all the real estate, getting a big company and hoarding the money, and they're not doing anything to give back. I mean, just because other people don't have a lot of money doesn't mean that they're not equally as intelligent. If you call someone smart, what you're doing is you say they have, in a very clever way, adapted to the matrix. A smart is not the compliment that calling and, addressing someone, relating with someone as being multiple intelligent would possibly be, because they're not even close to the same. Smart and intelligent are two different things. So that's it for the word sound, the games that people play. Think about your language, look at your billboards, speak to your healthcare providers. If I see someone that says, come join my Masterclass, that's a turnoff. Don't you think it's time that we move past master mentality? Is a master someone who's achieved something, or does master have such a negative connotation that we should possibly start looking for something else, like, senior level or elder wisdom or great, workshop. We'd like you to come to the great workshop. But there's lots of ways we can move past the master class mentality. We are taught to step on the other. Exactly, Jason. Exactly. But let's take that a step further. If you're an animal, which you are, you're an animal. The dogs that live with me each have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. They have teeth. They have warm blood. They have fur. I have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. I have a different type of fur. I have hair. Okay, I walk. They walk. We all have locomotion. We have digestion. We have elimination. These animals inside of factory farms, how could anyone not possibly feel for the horrific, heinous trillions of animals being bludgeoned, hit over the head with axes and picks, and their babies grabbed away from them while they cry in utter emotional pain, while their udders are so large and voluminous and hanging from them that they can't even walk until eventually they're completely lamed by it, in which case they're thrown on some kind of a pitchfork, or one of these machines. It's got the 2 prongs that stick out, and they're, hoisted off and thrown into a dump to die without even a care. I want to know, how is it that we don't care? Okay? So, what I'm going to do is say so long for now. I need to get back inside. I plan on doing some other live streams about opioid abuse, addiction, and it's actually a code. It is a code that is taking over our individuals, and some more than other. I believe it has a lot to do with high copper individuals. So you don't know if you're high copper, and if you should. Bless up, Dana. It's good to see you, brother. You don't know if you should actually be wearing copper or not wearing copper unless you've really had your hair tested, or you've worked with someone who can have you feeling reasonably certain that that's a good idea or not for you. Excess copper is estrogenic. It's estrogenic. Where zinc is progesteronic, it's progesterone, has a lot to do with how our moods are. If I see a woman and she's got a lot of extra fat on her body, I know she's definitely got some excess issues, okay? So that's going to contribute. If she's heavy, she's going to have mood issues. That's just a fact, okay? So I'm going to say so long for now. I hope you've got something. Please go back and listen from the beginning if you'd like. I encourage you to share it. Please post your questions down below. I'll get back with you. And the more people that we can share and refer as our brothers and sisters and subvert the dominant paradigm out of game, simulation, matrix reality, the better off we're going to be. So one heart.